Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
We start with the land of the absurd.
What? Absurd? What's absurd that's going on at Sports, Steve?
Northwestern hired a legal firm to look into their issues after the hazing incidents.
Was this the same Loretta Lynch stuff? Is that the same one?
Yeah. So they came back with their recommendations. They should be more vigilant about hazing and secondary people, when need be, need to step in. How much money did you pay for that?
Be more vigilant.
How much money did you pay for that? I could have sat down. You and I could have picked up the paycheck and left and said, hey, this is what we think. We interviewed 120 people. I'm always impressed by the number of people that are interviewed. Right? It's just, I mean, we talked to 800 people. Did you talk to the key ones? I mean, it's all I care about, really. I mean, we talked to 120 people. Did you really? I'm so impressed. Wow, very thorough. How much money did you get per person? And that's what they came up with.
Yeah.
If you are Pat Fitzgerald, who, by the way, hired the legal firm he hired in Chicago, would be considered to be
pretty darn good
when it comes to the legal world. They're legal killers. The Northwestern attorneys, even though they do have a lot of money, don't have the legal firepower this group has. All this does is scream, we need a settlement.
Yeah. Not great.
Because remember,
Not great.
When Northwestern suspended him for 2 weeks, they had conducted their own investigation.
Yeah.
And guess what they concluded? We need to be more vigilant about hazing, and secondary parties need to step in when need be. Wait a minute. How much money did you pay for this one to say exactly the same thing your internal one said a year ago? It's baffling. Okay? This is legalized stealing. It's right up there with, you'll love this one.
Oh, boy.
Big 12. 2014. Baylor and TCU are having great seasons, both undefeated. And they go into the final weekend, but there's no conference championship game.
Yes.
Ohio State blasts Wisconsin in the Big Ten title game. I mean, Urban runs it up. Suddenly, TCU and Baylor are 5 and 6. I believe TCU was 3. And they fell to 5. Baylor fell from 5 to 6, and Ohio State jumped them to 4. So, the then commissioner, Bob Bowlesby, commissions a group to find out what they need to do about it. What they concluded was, because the Big 12 had declared co-champions, they lost a data point as opposed to a champion being declared and a data point, which could have thrown them over the top. You paid all that money for that?
If anyone ever needs to pay a lot of money to find out information like that, they can come and find Steve Jones and Kyle F. We're available if need be. We'll take a nice paycheck and a good steak.
And not only that, the good steak may be the best part. I sit there and I am so baffled by the lack of common sense out there over and over again. I need a group of people to tell me that if we have co-champions, we don't get the full data point. Well, guess what? We already knew that. But you needed to pay a group to conduct a study to tell you what you should already know.
Would you like your gift card in Sheetz, WOWY?
Northwestern paid all this money to come to the exact same conclusion the internal investigation came out with a year ago.
Yep.
That was the recommendation?
Yep.
It is baffling. The lack of leadership that we have in so many areas because people don't approach their jobs with a semblance of common sense, and they need to have a committee or a group from the outside tell them what is obvious. We need to be vigilant on hazing, and second parties need to step in. Over here in the back, no kidding, really?
No blank Sherlock is, I guess, the word you're looking for.
You paid all that money for that conclusion? You paid all that money to find out that a full champion as opposed to a co-champion gets the full data point? Really?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? I mean, it is baffling beyond words. All the money that is spent on meaningless third-party mumbo-jumbo, when if you're a leader and have any semblance of common sense and can sit there and say, okay, let me just ask a few questions here, just make sure I got this right and on track. That's all you need. I'll never forget, it was Chris Del Conte was the athletic director at Texas, and Pat Kraft takes the same tact. And they asked him, what are you going to do about hiring a coach? I think this was the football coach search.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, look, I'll talk to him. We'll get it done. They said, well, what about a committee? He says, what the hell do I need a committee for? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did Pat need a committee to go out and hire the new baseball coach? Basketball coach?
Mm-hmm.
He's immersed in it every day. He can figure it out. That's his job.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need the search committee.
I love the search committees. I think it's the most absurd thing in the world. We're searching for a coach. Give me like 10 people you think are good. Let's go. Find me a list. You can find your own list. It's not rocket science who's out there.
You just shake your head and you go, what are we doing here? That's why Pat comes in like, hey, I'm going to hire a baseball coach. Mike Gambino did a great job for me at BC. Love him, terrific. Blah 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 blah. Great, hires him, and guess what? Mike is terrific. Does a great job, and is And by the way, is having, just so everybody knows, a huge portal season right now. Mike and his staff are having a big portal season to this point. Mike Rhodes, Mike Rhodes comes in. Guess what? He hires a pros pro.
Mm-hmm.
A pros pro who can flat out coach. And by the way, their practices, and it's summer practices, so it's not, it doesn't portend for, you can't talk about records or anything like that, because everything's so different matching up these days, especially with the portal and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But he's got a team that is, no question, significantly better than the team he had last year.
Mm-hmm.
I already can see it. Now, how is it going to play out in the season? Look, I mean, seasons are long.
Yeah.
But is the team better? They're way better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those are two of the primary hires that Pat's had. I'm searching for the search committee. There was no need. He took care of it. That's his job. And all this stuff on the outside, we hired this legal firm to do what? To do what? It's like the Wells report on deflated footballs. We talked to 400 people. You talked to 400 people. Did you talk to the 8 key people?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Did you do that? In fact, not only did you, so we'll talk to a couple of the Colts. We'll talk to, right? Let's talk to the officials who, by the way, threw the ball in and out on every play.
Mm-hmm.
3 officials touched the football every play.
Yeah.
Did you notice the difference in the footballs?
Yeah.
I don't need to interview 400 people. We interviewed 400 people. To do what? Take money? And then in the Super Bowl, they changed out the football every play. And guess what? He still threw for 400 yards. Okay, we're good. You interviewed 400 people. So let's get it straight. Let's expand it. 10 to 15 people. I don't need to interview 400. And by the way, the investigation should take about 2 weeks. Month after month after month after month after month after month. Finally, a big report comes out. Ooh, hey, great. Talk about PSIs and things like that. Oh, for God's sakes. Paul Tagliabue was right. The key to crisis management is somehow make it go away in 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he told me. He says, look, one way or another, let's make a decision. We gotta get this out of the way and move on. Right? Tagliabue was right about that. All right? And guess what? Underrated under the leadership part. I sit there, I see stuff like this, and I just am absolutely baffled at the lengths people will go to spend money on something that is something they can handle themselves and figure out themselves.
Mm-hmm.
What, it's more impactful that a third party said it? Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's an independent investigation. Oh, for goodness, independent investigation. Okay, fine. To come to that, see, it would be one thing if they came back with, hey, look, we found this, we found this, we found this, we found this, we found this. Okay. All right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You had the time to do it, interview people. I got it. All right. But to come back with that conclusion? I'm not sending you the check.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm going to make you sue me for the check.
I love animated Steve. This is fun.
No, I'm telling you.
I know. It's absurd.
It goes to a level you sit back and go, okay. So I can understand, okay, let's hire a third party. We got to look into it. It's because this is serious.
Let's hire an outside force to look at this.
This is extremely serious. Mm-hmm. That's the conclusion they come back with?
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting, if I'm sitting at Northwestern right now in the athletics department going, looking around going, we spent our money for that? That's what we got? I've got a football coach, a former football coach, suing me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Suing me. And that's the conclusion they came back with? I need to figure out how to settle. Now, there's some people saying Pat should take this all the way through. Mm-hmm. Pat wants to coach again.
Mm-hmm.
And so he can't do that until this is in his rearview mirror. He doesn't have an opportunity to do it, even at the NFL level, right? As an assistant coach, whatever it may be. He can't do that until this is in his rearview mirror. So he'd probably be willing to settle. If I'm Northwestern, I'm figuring out how to settle right now because this didn't help their side of it. I'm not saying he
did nothing wrong.
Look, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. But the conclusions they came back with so benign, we need to be more vigilant on hazing.
Well,
no kidding.
Yeah.
Really?
I hope you are.
I mean, yeah, okay. We understand that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And third parties need to be more aggressive stepping in. I got that part, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And? You mean that's it? You got a problem. You got a big problem.
Yeah.
And
big problem.
Yeah. And hazing is an extremely serious situation. Mm-hmm. No question.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't pay that kind of money to a third party to come up with that when you can come up with that yourself. We hired a third party that told us that a full champion gets the data point as opposed to a co-champion.
You know what I need to hire a third party for, Steve? I'd hire a third party to let me know what I should have for dinner tonight. That's what I probably need help with. Do I get a burrito bowl? Do I get chicken? What do I do?
I need a third party to tell me about a deflated football. It's an independent investigation. It's the same group you hired for the Dolphins thing, right? They're real independent, all right. Because the Dolphins had the hazing problem, right?
Yeah, Richie
Incognito and those guys. Okay. And we interviewed 400 people. Look, did you talk to maybe about 30 people, like the key 30 people that, like, it's all I care about.
I've always
just don't give me inflated numbers to make it seem like you worked.
I've always enjoyed
that way. You justify your billing hours.
I've enjoyed the tampering investigations. The how many people they talked to? 100 people. Did you call the agent, the player, and the GM, and the 10 people that were in the room when the calls were made? Cool. When did they call them? They called them at 7:59 instead of 8 o'clock. Cool. Technically tampering. Fine. It's really not tough. When did you call them? Give me the exact time. Give me the phone bill. That's pretty much all I need.
Well, I mean, let's face it. When you're doing that, you are going to get stonewalled.
Yeah. But, there's not... Even then, though, you still don't need to call 400 people. Right. None of it makes sense. Whatever. A lot of mumbo-jumbo going on.
Yeah. But I saw that today, and I went, you have to be kidding me. I mean, in other words, hazing's extremely serious. I get it. They are trying to, to solve something here. So I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But you spent all this money, and that's what they came back with? That's what you came back with your internal investigation a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm baffled by how much money was wasted for something that's obvious.
Yeah. Would you like to discuss more money, though, here on the show?
Well, I want to talk about your U.S. soccer team.
Well,
let's get red cards. Let's lose to Panama.
Before we get there.
What are we doing here?
Before we get there.
It's a country of 330 million people. They have a canal.
All right, we're getting there. So the U.S. team does baffling things. And yesterday was the next iteration of that. Timothy Weah in the 20th minute for whatever reason.
They played with 10 guys for 75 minutes. I think it was extra time.
18th minute decides, let me two-hand shove this dude in the face.
Yeah.
Spoiler, you can't do that. No. And he gets red carded. He apologized to the team after the game. It's like, you shouldn't do that in the first place. Because now the U.S. is in a terrible position where they are tied on points with Panama because they lost the game. If the U.S. is to lose to Uruguay and Panama beats Bolivia, who, by the way, Uruguay beat Bolivia by 5-0 last night, it is Dunsville for the U.S.
Well, it's not only Dunsville for the U.S. I think it's Dunsville for the coaching staff.
But good. I don't know if we fully talked about this when it was happening. I don't remember if this was going on or not when I was on the show. There are some coaches who are in the sports they're in, but I have to ask the question of, are they actually good? We've asked the question about people like a Doc Rivers on this show. Gareth Southgate with English national team. He's not good. Greg Berhalter, like a year ago, he was out of contract. The U.S. needed a new coach. We were like, great, we'll get somebody in, a Jesse Marsh, someone who's a younger coach who actually can use the team to the proper ability, bring them in, and make this team into a great school, a great team. Because spoiler, we have good players across the board. We have I think 2 players in the MLS out of our entire 23-man roster. It's the lowest number we've ever had because these players are at good teams across Europe. Christian Pulisic is playing in Milan. Gio Reyna is playing in Dortmund. Like, these are players in top leagues at top places. Fuller and Balogun, incredible.
Pulisic's a top player with us.
He's a top player. He's an incredible player for Milan. He's an incredible player for Chelsea. All these things, you're like, okay, we can get a coach and we can do this. He was out of contract. What happened 2 weeks later? They said, oh, after doing some more research, we think Berhalter's the best man for the job still. There was no fan who thought that. Not a single one.
I know.
He failed at so many levels. Yeah. And they said, we're giving that guy the job back. No. He tactically is not a good manager. Yesterday we were hurt by Tim Weah. That was the main crux of it. But we didn't look good. We just didn't. We had a chaotic end of the game. Matt Turner, our goalkeeper, got hurt, which was a part of this.
That hurt, yeah.
It hurt.
That hurt because a lot of people think he could have made that save.
He probably could have. And Ethan Horvath came in the 60-plus minute, and so it's tough for a goalkeeper to sub because goalkeepers need a lot of warm-ups.
Sure.
A whole bunch of things. I'm not blaming Ethan Horvath for this.
No. You're coming off the bench cold and you have to play. I mean,
it's never easy, especially for a keeper. But then you lose in the manner you do in the 83rd minute on home soil as the U.S., a team that really should be hammering Panama. We should be going at them. On their team,
I'm not going to pretend I know the Panamanian roster.
I'm looking at their starting lineup. There is not a single player I know on that team. And
I can guarantee you there's nobody on that team.
There is not. But you look at the U.S. team. Balogun's at AS Monaco. Weah's at Juventus. Pulisic is in Milan. Tyler Adams is playing in the Premier League. Gio Reyna played in the Prem last year and also played in Germany. Weston McKennie played at Juventus. Like, these players are at some of the best teams in the world. But Greg Berhalter can't do anything with them. I get it. Weah gets sent off. You're missing your best right back. Your keeper gets hurt. No. You should be comfortably winning 3-3-1. 3-0, 3-1, something like that. But you don't. It takes an incredible strike from Balogun to get you the first goal. It takes an incredible hit from him. Off the post, it was gorgeous. But that's what it takes to get a goal. They're going to go up against Uruguay, and we're going to lose by 3, at least. Easily by 3. This Uruguay team is going to, I think, slaughter as being kind. It's going to be a dismantling. They have some of the best players in the world across the pitch.
You're so negative.
I am okay being negative because it makes no sense that he's still in this job. And he's going to be in the job through the World Cup in 26 because they're not going to hire anybody else. And spoiler, it's not going to go well if that's the case. You're going into a World Cup on your soil with him as your coach. You should have replaced him for this one to give some coach one big tournament to get it kind of figured out. Give him one to test players, all these things. None of these guys are old. The oldest is Tim Ream, and outside of him, everyone else is on the younger side. Yeah. So give him one tournament to figure out how the best fit of his team is. Next summer, you have the Gold Cup, and you'll also be able to figure out with the different World Cup qualifying games that they let to play in friendlies how the team best suits itself. Great. Give them 2 years to figure it out and then go into the World Cup feeling good about yourselves. But no. Now we're going into World Cup with a terrible team because we're bad. We have great players. Just the only positive is that
it's almost over.
It's almost over. And other international teams that should be doing better are playing terribly. France have not looked good. England.
That's because France plays basketball now.
I know.
Based on the draft, they had 4 of the top 45 guys in the NBA draft. They're all playing hoops. They're not playing soccer anymore.
It it baffles my mind sometimes.
No, it doesn't baffle me at all. I just look at the scores.
It baffles, and I get the idea of, but what other coaches are out there?
But look,
you can find a coach that's better than Greg Berhalter.
Okay,
I could find one better than him.
Here's the problem with the U.S. men's team versus the U.S. women's team. Okay, the women's team in the United States brings with it expectations. So when they don't win the World Cup, when they don't win an Olympic gold medal, people are baffled by it because they bring with it expectations. The U.S. men's soccer program, while better than it was years ago, brings with it to the average American fan no expectations.
Okay? The bar is on the floor, and they're still somehow going lower than that.
I mean, they should be at the point where a very good U.S. men's soccer team, which say they did well and they were advancing to knockout rounds and maybe winning a round in the knockout round, say getting to the quarterfinals of a World Cup or an Olympiad, would excite the populace of this country very much so, because it would be the first time since 1950 on an international stage that the U.S. had the populace excited when they beat England 1-0, and Walter Barr, who was Penn State's head coach for many, many years, assisted on that goal in 1950. Well, okay, 1950 was 74 years ago. And, when you sit there and you think about that kind of drought and that kind of irrelevance, okay, the average American fan, I always talk about the casual fan.
Yes.
I like sports and give me something to be excited about, and hey, I'm going to lock in and watch it. And, you want to talk about a difference maker, so I've always referenced Caitlin Clark. Well, she got the casual fan of this country engaged in what she did, and they watched. Right? Tiger Woods gets the people watching the PGA Tour when he was in his heyday.
Yeah.
Okay? Because he got the casual fan excited about golf, not just the golf
but
aficionado.
The Kyles.
Right? Right? They go, hey, what's Tiger doing? Right? What's Caitlin doing? All right. The U.S. men's soccer team doesn't have that. Pulisic is, to his credit, an excellent player, and not only that, I think can be the kind of draw that can get a casual fan excited about the sport in this country.
Yeah.
Collegiate soccer has been doing fine here, but the U.S. men's soccer team needs to do something on a stage somewhere.
And they're going to have the biggest stage to do it on in 2026.
Right. It's home. They're going to be at home.
They're at home. And that was the feeling with this tournament, this Copa America, was this is going to lay the foundation.
They bring with them they still continue to bring with them no expectation.
But I look at this and say, okay, hypothetically, you missed out on Argentina in the group, which was the biggest win you could have, is you don't have to face Messi, because we would have faced them and it would have been a demolition derby against us. But you miss out on Argentina. Great. You've got Uruguay. They're a really good team, but no Argentina and no Brazil. The two big teams you need to avoid, because they're two of the best teams in the world.
Sure.
Great. Awesome. You get a group with Panama and Bolivia, teams you should be hammering by 3.
Of course you should.
And okay,
that's the problem.
You lose to Uruguay. We can live with that, but you'll beat the other two teams and get 6 points. You'll make it through. You know what's now going to happen? We're going to go in. Assuming we come second, assuming we can somehow salvage a point and Panama get rocked by Bolivia or whatever, somehow things break our way. Let's say we get out of the group stage. We get the winner of Group D. You know who that's going to be? Either Colombia, who beat us 5-0, I think, 2 weeks ago, or it's going to be Brazil.
Well, that was a friendly, though.
Yeah, but they beat us in a friendly 5-0. Okay. Imagine what a competitive match is going to be.
It's okay. It's friendly.
Are they friendly? They beat us 5-0. Brazil, we drew. We should not have. We got lucky.
But they don't. But see, that's the problem. There are no expectations. You don't harbor hope when you go into it. If the U.S. were to win something like anything like that, people would sit back and they'd be in shock. Now, it'd be exciting. Mm-hmm. That's why when the U.S. women fought so hard for equal pay, well, in this country, not other parts of the world, but let's talk about this country. They draw the higher TV ratings. They draw more excitement. You know, they've earned all that. They win World Cups. They win the Olympics. Right? The men in this country have just, okay, you know, we talk all the time about, you know, just another guy. Well, the U.S. men's soccer team is just another team. Yeah. Right? In a country of 335 to nearly 340 million people, the U.S. is just another team. And men's soccer. And women's soccer, they've got the target.
Team. Yeah.
They're the team. They're the, it's like.
We're playing this team. We're going for it today.
There's a sense, the sense of pride in what they do, winning, so forth, stars. I mean, it's big news when Alex Morgan's left off the Olympic team. Yeah. She's 35 now, but I mean, she's somebody that, you know, people know who she is. Young girls try to emulate her style. You know, whose style in this country are you emulating right now? I mean, and when you're doing dumb things, like Weah going out and getting a red card 18 minutes in, like, don't you understand? You need to play. You need to figure out winning plays. Okay? Just because it says United States on there, okay, doesn't mean you're good. Okay? Panama. Guess what? You need to go out and go, hey, look, we need to do everything we can to beat Panama. Let's be smart. Oh, no, we got this. In fact, and then a red card play with 10, lose 2-1. Really, that's typical U.S. men's soccer right now.
Yeah.
In terms of how it's run, the personalities, everything that goes with it. They don't give, that soccer program doesn't give any hope to anybody in this country. 26 is going to come up, and I think it is for the U.S. men's soccer program. It's going to be one of those. It's not a break moment, but it's a make moment. So it's make or
it's
not make or break. It's not going to break it, but it's make or eh.
Well, you know what the make or break moment was for this team was 2017 when we faced Trinidad and Tobago in Trinidad, and we needed to not lose the game to go to the World Cup.
That's right.
And then we lost the game.
Of course.
And the only player on that team who was any good was a 17-year-old by the name of Christian Pulisic. Yep. He was the only player on that team with anything going for him. The rest of them were all old people, and it was like, you know what? Now we're going to make the change. We're going to ramp up because they had just announced the World Cup was coming here, and it was like, okay, we need to get our stuff together. Yeah. So what do? They methodically and slowly shifted, got all these young players in, brought in went out there and got players from other countries like Fuller and Balogun, who could have represented England and Nigeria, chose to represent the U.S. You got these guys in. Sure. You built this team up and said 2026, we're going to be young, but it's going to be our year. And then what do? You hire an inept coach who is not good enough to coach in the MLS.
He speaks highly of you.
He was fired from his jobs in the MLS because he wasn't good enough. And they said, he's the guy we want. When in 2022 we said, get him out, they said, no, we're going to keep him.
For all we know, some of the best soccer players in this country, for all we know, maybe playing tennis, maybe playing golf, maybe playing football, maybe playing basketball, maybe playing ice hockey, maybe playing baseball. I don't, because we have, in this country, I know we have more population, but we have so many other choices out there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's a big difference. You know, realistically, what are the choices? For example, let's pick Germany, which has a great soccer program. Well, the choices there are basketball and soccer. Those really are realistically the choices.
Yeah.
There's no baseball there. There's no football there. In terms of realistic choices, no football, baseball, ice hockey. No, I mean they play hockey, but still, it's not anywhere what it is here. But it's a big problem. I want to get to an accomplishment now.
Oh, a positive, a high note.
the U.S. Senior Open taking place at Newport, Seaside course. There is a rarity on this course, a par 70. It is a rarity when you have, every golf course has a par 3. But it's a rarity when you have back-to-back par 3s. The fourth hole is 184 yards. The fifth hole is 203. They're both par 3. Frank Bensel had back-to-back hole-in-ones yesterday.
What?
He aced the fourth hole, stepped up to the fifth hole, and aced that one too.
And how many rounds of golf do you think you've played in your lifetime, Steve, if I may ask?
Oh, jeez, I don't know, hundreds.
And how many holes in one do you have?
Never. I've never had one. The closest I got was 4 inches.
Most people get none, maybe one in their lifetime.
Yeah.
Dude got 2 in a round,
Right.
2 back-to-back.
Okay, now.
Jeez.
So
I need that kind of luck in my life.
I'd like to also point out that the next 2 holes after that, he had bogeys.
It evens out.
He actually shot a 4-over par 74 with the 2 aces yesterday. In his career, he played in 6 PGA Tour events. He never made the cut. But he is the guy that made back-to-back aces in the U.S. Senior Open.
And he will forever be remembered here on this show, on Sport Talk.
So I just want to make sure that we got Frank in there, because that is a remarkable feat.
It's incredible
to do something like that. I mean, if he hadn't done it in a part each hole, he has shot 78.
Yeah. You know
I'm not kidding.
I know.
Right?
You know what else is incredible, Steve?
Hey, here goes. Let's get to the Bronny thing.
You know what's incredible? Right. Putting up 6 points in college and being drafted in the NBA draft.
No, you put up 4 points a game.
My bad. 4 points. Sorry. That was a lot of points. Right. A lot of points.
So this is not a deep draft, as we pointed out. All credit to Zach Edey for being the lottery pick that you talked about.
Told you he was going to be 9th.
Right. And he went to Memphis 9. That's all about fit. I give him credit. He worked so hard to get to this point.
Yeah.
He ends up being a lottery pick. I said at the beginning of the season he would be late second or would not get picked. Others said, oh, no, he'll be a first pick. And I said, hey, 20 years ago he'd been the first overall pick in the draft.
Oh, yeah.
I said, but he's going to be, because of the way the game is played today, I said he's going to be a late second or a free agent. Well, all of you who said he'd be a first-round pick were right and I was wrong. All of you said he was a lottery pick, right? You were right. I was wrong. Okay? It's okay to say that. It's a fact. And I don't mind telling everybody, because I think for the most part I'm being right on things. The track record's pretty good. Guess what? It's not perfect.
You're in the black, Steve. Right? You're in the black.
But I was wrong about that. When I watched him play last year in person, you could see less weight. The movement was excellent. I talked to him briefly after the game out of Purdue.
Yeah.
And he has worked himself to a spot to get here. He never gave up on himself. Now he came back to Purdue for a reason, because he did get a late second round grade last year. He was not going to be a first round pick.
He was going to be drafted 55th.
Right. That's why they knew he had to come back. Well, to his credit, he made 55 into what, 9?
Yeah. He improved.
That says everything about him in terms of the work ethic. And not only that, the difference between he and Klingon is that Klingon's about a 24, 25-minute-a-game guy. Edey doesn't fatigue.
40 minutes.
He's like a 35 to 40-minute-a-game guy. He doesn't come out.
And he's also not going to be asked to do that. He's going to be asked to pull it back minutes-wise so he can probably exert more energy in 28 minutes than 40 minutes.
So for the big man moving forward in the league, I'm talking about the traditional big man.
The Zach Edey.
The traditional big man, Klingon to a point too. But those two guys, I think, are going to be the two table setters that will tell you whether the big man still has a legitimate role. When I mean significant role in the league,
Yes.
not just legitimate, significant role.
Because the difference is between the last 2 years, we had a guy who is the opposite of them in terms of where he is on the floor at all times in Victor Wembanyama, where he is out spacing versus...
Same thing with Chet Holmgren.
Chet Holmgren as well.
Holmgren's outside, Wembanyama's outside. Anthony Davis is an inside-outside player as a veteran now.
Yes.
Doncic is an inside-outside player. Jokic is an inside-outside player. Embiid attempts on the average 3 threes a game.
Yeah.
Right?
But he gets the ball further from the basket.
You know, and can make that shot. That's not what these two guys do. So their ability to play in the league for the next couple of years, not just this year, but the next couple of years, may influence how the NBA thinks about the big man moving forward. Pro or con? Pro or con? Yeah. Ricochet is a big man, as is Sarr, but they're inside-outside players. Yeah. They're more of what the NBA has been pushing toward.
Ricochet is a wing, and Sarr is like a 6'11", 7-foot three-point shooting.
Yeah, he's a stretch 5, okay, which is what Wembanyama is. He's a stretch 5. Right? Edey's not a stretch 5. He's a 5. And this is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Look, let's be honest. Anybody, as an average fan, I'm a big fan of the Atlanta Hawks. I don't care who you are. You know nothing about Ricochet. Zero. Zip. Zilch. Because guess what? The vast majority of Atlanta Hawks fans have never seen him play a game. They have seen highlights of him, but they have not seen him play a game. Sarr. They've seen highlights of him in Washington. They've never seen him play a game.
No.
Reed Shepherd, they've seen a lot. Okay, and the Rockets
McCain,
got him.
Seen a lot.
I think McCain was a very good pick for the Sixers. He's not a star, but he's another shooter out there that I like and did a great job at Duke. I think that Bone, the second-round pick from UCLA, actually was a very underrated pick. I think that was an underrated pick.
Adam Bona?
Yep. Bona is it's Adema Bona, and he played very well for UCLA.
People were rumoring he could be a late first-round pick, and he fell 41.
Right. And so the Sixers, in terms of their draft, had a good draft.
Yeah.
Right? There's no star in the draft for them. There's no star really for anybody in this draft. Right? Dillingham's probably the best. Shepherd and Dillingham are probably the two best offensive players in the draft. Well, Dillingham just doesn't have the frame that Shepherd does.
Yeah.
Shepherd's a 52% three-point shooter, really. I mean,
he's going to play minutes.
A guy I thought didn't get drafted high enough was Furphy.
Yes.
So he didn't, because he can flat out shoot it.
He ended up going second round.
And to be honest with you, I know Bronny went at 55, but the kid from Kansas who went after him,
Kevin McCullough Jr.,
is the better player.
McCullough's good.
I mean, he's a very good player. Now, these are all role players. You're a second-round player. So now let's get to Bronny. Right. The Lakers made their first-round pick, Dalton Connect. Well, Dalton Connect in this draft is a very good first-round pick.
And he was expected to go in the first 10 in the lottery. He fell to 17, and they were like, we're not letting him pass us.
Right. And that's a very good first-round pick for the Lakers.
Oh, yeah.
Connect will play for them. He can shoot. There are moments where, as talented as Tennessee was, there were moments where he was producing like 40% of their points out there.
He's going to come in immediately as, I believe, 23 years old, and he's going to play for them.
Older player who will play for them right away and has a chance to start for them right away. Another guy worked, junior college, Northern Colorado, got to Tennessee. When he got to Tennessee, he's like, look how I can play. I mean, and he had a terrific season. I have not talked to Frankie DeLeon about him yet, because Frankie's here now. He transferred from Tennessee. At some point, I'll ask him about Connect when I get a chance, because I've talked to him a couple times, but I have not brought up Connect yet to him. But that's a really good pick for them. Okay. Well, at that point, no offense, there are not many Jokic's out there available in the second round.
Yes.
Like, for example, Christie was a second-round pick. We said going into the draft that he would be a second-round pick, right? So he ends up going to the Clippers, right? Well, he's a really good shooter, but he's really, I always love these guys when they do their own description. They all say the same thing. I'm a high IQ guy. All right, well, I'll be the judge of that. Okay, but you can shoot.
Yeah.
Christie can shoot. He's a good shooter. The other stuff, he's slight. He's no better than an okay defender, despite the self-proclaimed high basketball IQ. And he's a lot like his brother, because I wasn't big on Max Christie either. When Max Christie was at Michigan State, they said somebody had said to me, he's a one and done. I said, a one and done? I said, for what? They said, the NBA. I said, all right, he'll get picked, but I don't see it.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing with his brother. I don't see that one either.
Cam went to the Clippers, I believe, at 46.
Yeah, he went to the Clippers. Max is with the Lakers. Right? And, I mean, that's nice. And did he deserve to be picked there? Sure, he earned that spot.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a really good shooter. The foreign influence, look, this is all, the dream team in 92 is the one that set all of this in motion, which was the vision, of David Stern when he said, let's let our guys play. And the key was every single player they asked to play in 92 said yes. Jordan had already played in the Olympics and had a gold medal in 84, said yes. Magic said yes, okay? There's a lot of talk like, well, why should you put Bird on there? Bird said yes, and guess what? It was important to have Bird, right? And then they played they had to play in the qualifying tournament. And Bird had a big game in the qualifying tournament, and people forget against Germany in the Olympics, Bird had 20, right? Bird said yes. Ewing said yes. Drexler said yes. I mean, Malone said yes.
Barkley,
Robinson said yes. Barkley, Mullen, right? Stockton, they all said yes. Everybody. To the point where Isaiah Thomas wasn't on the team. Okay. But they all said yes.
Yeah.
And then they all went over, and Chuck Daly achieved his goal. He went through an entire tournament, never called a timeout. Okay? No, I'm not kidding. That was his state. That was Chuck Daly's goal. He said, my goal is, I mean, what do you expect from a former Punxsutawney High School basketball coach? Right? He went out, and he said, I don't want to call any timeouts. Well, he didn't have to call a timeout. But what they did is that everywhere they went, whether it was Monaco or in Barcelona, because they had to go to Monaco first, right? They were the rock stars of that Olympiad. And they were, and they weren't in competitive games. Everywhere they went, they were rock stars. Everywhere. I say that with all due respect to Billy Idol. Right? Okay. But they go to the bus, swarmed. Go through the hotel, swarmed. Get to the arena, swarmed. Hey? And that set in motion people wanting to be basketball players, young kids wanting to be basketball players in Europe. That's what they did. Now we're seeing the fruits of it today. When your top vote getters for the MVP are Jokic, Doncic, you start going through.
You have Serbian, Slovenian, Greek.
Right.
Embiid was technically going to represent, I believe, either Cameroon
but
or
he's
Senegal.
with Team USA, but he's from Cameroon, right? You've got Giannis. I mean,
you've got Shai Alexander, Canadian.
Okay? Steve Nash helped with that.
Vince Carter, but still,
Steve Nash helped with that. I mean, being, a Canadian player himself. And although Danny Earl took him apart in the game I did out at San Jose. He did. Earl had like 19 points. Nash had 10. But then I saw the next day when Penn State beat Bradley for the cable car championship. They won like 72-70, something like that. The game in front of us was the game between Georgia Tech's Stephon Marbury and Santa Clara with Nash. That's where I saw Nash. I really saw him. I went, because we had heard a lot about him going in.
Yeah.
The fact that Danny played so great against him was a phenomenal deal. And that was a really good Penn State basketball team. They won their first, 13 games that season and got as high as 9th in the country. But, I watched Nash, but when I saw him play against Marbury the next day,
you were like, ooh,
like, wow,
something here.
This guy can really play.
Yeah.
Well, he's the one that got people excited about basketball in Canada, right? And now Edie's doing the same thing because he's from Toronto. And I saw, look, Jamal Murray is on that Team Canada. And by the way, they're celebrating 50 years of USA basketball in Las Vegas. And as part of the 50-year celebration, Team USA is going to play Team Canada.
That's going to be a competitive game.
And well, no, I want to watch that game. I think it's going to be a really good game to watch. And by the way, Steve Kerr is the coach. Everybody, including Kawhi Leonard, I guess,
healthy,
will be reporting on time, which is a big part of it.
Yes.
Okay, so now we've gone through all this because again, Richeche, hey, we're excited about what? You don't know what he can do.
Yes.
You've never seen him play a game. Sarr, never seen him play a game. Now, the scouts have seen them play, so they obviously think that they've got right. But they saw Bennett play a lot or whatever with the Cavaliers when they drafted
Anthony
him first
Bennett.
overall. It's like, well, what are we doing? But 4 of the first 25 are from France. The international game is still there. It's helping with the NBA internationally, but it still brings with it questions nationally.
Yes.
The Sixers, Sixer fans know McCain. Sixer fans know Bonner. Okay? Okay, they saw him play.
Yeah.
I saw him play at UCLA. You know, McCain played with Duke. Okay. Who the heck drafted Filipowski? Was it Portland?
Filipowski was drafted by Utah in the second round at 32.
Right, they know who he is. At least they know who he is.
Yes.
Okay. Then we'll get to the name that hovered over this entire draft, and there's no way in heck should have hovered over the first round of the draft. Name that should have been brought up at the beginning of the night and never should have been mentioned the rest of the night. Because second-round picks were not mentioned the rest of the night. Cam Christie's name never came up, for example. But, of course, because he's LeBron's son, Bronny James got picked. Okay, the Lakers draft Dalton Connect. They did their job. That was the key pick for them.
Yes.
Right? There's no key pick in round 2. You're hoping to be
Diamond in the rough.
You're hoping to get lucky in round 2. The Nuggets totally lucked out. They got Jokic in round 2.
Spurs lucked out, got Manu Ginobili.
Was Giannis a round 2?
Giannis was round 1. He was just inside the lottery.
Okay.
But like you're hoping for the Manus to just pop up out of thin air.
You're just You're just rolling the dice, and and usually, if you can get 4 to 8 of those guys to make your regular roster, pretty good.
You can get one guy to be in your 10-man rotation. Happy days.
Right, and it doesn't mean, for example, during the course of the year in a couple of years, like a lot of them end up playing in the NBA, right? Because that's what round 2 is.
Yeah.
Over and over again. And we see that. So the Lakers did not waste a pick on Bronny James. Right? They went out, and guess what? They picked him. Right? Okay. In a contract year, they made the father happy. They want to sign him to a 3-year, $163 million max contract. He's 39 right now. The opportunity is there to play with his son. Well, that's fine. Okay? He's not, again, Bronny James at 19 years of age. He's only 19. He has survived a cardiac arrest. We don't know what that did to his overall game coming in, but he's always been very much a team concept guy. He's always been by the way, very popular with his teammates. His teammates will tell you he is not a Bronny James. He's kind of like one of the guys, and is, by all accounts, which is a tribute to both his parents, a down-to-earth young man. And the people at USC have said that about him too. Like, there's no big timing, well, and of course with everything that happened to him, I mean, you're just trying to get your game back. I was talking about all these guys say they have a high basketball IQ. He actually does. And you can see it because he understands defense, how to play it, angles of it, and team defensive concepts. All right. So these are pluses. After that, he is a good passer. After that, he's an okay shooter. His shooting percentage in high school
was way higher than
when it was in college. But again, we don't know what the effect happened to be because of the cardiac arrest and all the time that he missed. Right? Again, I'm trying to be fair about this.
Yeah.
Okay? And he is something that doesn't help him is he's not as big as USC said he was. He's actually 6'1.5". And in a 3 and D spot, that doesn't work in the NBA.
Yeah.
He's going to have to, despite what his agent says, he's going to have to play it in the G League because he's going to need reps.
Yes. He's going to be in the G League for most of the season.
But he's going to need reps. That's the key, is the reps part of it. Right? Especially after having to sit out a third of his college season because of something that was totally out of his control.
Yeah.
He just needs to get out and play basketball. Right? But in terms of somebody like, I talk all the time, that guy knows how to play. Bronny knows how to play. The question is whether he's good enough to have the mind and the athleticism match up together. That's what we don't know about him yet. Being with his father, nepotism, what? This is the second round pick 55.
Yes.
The Lakers at pick 17. Okay, we could have a real discussion about this if the Lakers picked him at 17.
The first round pick is
and bypass Dalton Connect.
That would be a big thing.
Instead, Rob Pelinka and those guys drafted Dalton Connect.
Yes.
At that point, they achieved a major goal in their draft and had someone fall to them that gave them a chance of being better. Round 2 doesn't normally lend itself to bringing in a guy who's going to make you better.
Would a Kevin McCullough Jr. be a good player for them? Possibly.
Probably. But you'd be
you never know.
It'd be the same thing. Like, okay, well, we'll see about him and let's see how he does. But did they hurt their team by drafting him? No. Right? Did they potentially bring in a high IQ guy who can help them in some situations? Sure. Did they make the father happy? Yeah. Right? Do you have a better chance of re-signing the father? Yeah. Okay, who's, by the way, still one of the top 10 players in the NBA.
Despite being 40 this year.
Right? Right. Which is remarkable. And I think that's great. And I hope they can get on the floor together. That's fine because he's not – there's 17 roster spots. He's not bumping off somebody else.
No.
Because guess what? If he wasn't drafted, the Lakers would have signed him as a free agent. What's the difference? There really isn't much except it guarantees the fact he's a Laker. And I have no problem with this. I mean, a lot of people have a problem with it. I have no problem with it at all because if he were picked at 17, I'd have a problem with it because I'd be sitting there going, wait a minute.
If you used a first-round pick on him, there's an issue. But you used a 55th pick, it's okay.
Right, you used a late second-round pick on him. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. And now let him develop on his own. Everybody's on their own clock. For all we know, 5 years from now, he kicks it into another gear and ends up being like one of those wow, hey, let's give the kid a lot of credit, right? Or he still continues to struggle because, he struggled last year at USC. And, you didn't start games. It's just okay. Right? But I have no problem with this. If it was at 17, I'd be sitting there, if I were a Laker fan, going, okay, what are we doing here?
But it wasn't, and they can live with it.
Right. Look, it's like Cam Christie going to the Clippers.
Okay.
Okay, well, fine. What do you expect him to do with the Clippers? Is he going to play in the G League? Probably. And he was drafted 10 spots in front of him, 9 spots in front of him. Okay, well, it's like you're going to get treated like all the other second-round picks. I have no problem with that because that's what life is like. Jalen Pickett, who was picked early in the second round by Denver, went back and forth between Grand Rapids and Denver last year. He wasn't on a two-way contract, but to keep him sharp, they wanted him to keep playing. He went back and forth, and that's probably what Bronny's going to have to do.
Yeah. And it'll be fun to discuss this and many other topics next week here.
At least they didn't have to bring in a committee to do it.
No, they did not.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.